Well, thanks for staying with us. You're watching Firecrackers. Now joining me at the table this evening to shed light on the petroleum and industry bill. We also get to get his views about some of the major players in the oil and gas sector and some of their roles and recommendations. Is the chairman of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria Southwest Zone. He's also the founder and CEO of TJ Petroleum Company, Lamidi Dele Tajuddin. We'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, plus on the program, we have joining us via Zoom here in Lagos, Nigeria. We do have a lawyer. He's also a human rights activist, and he's also representative of the Niger Delta Dialogue in Nibege, Effiong. He joins us live via Zoom. Ini, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight, especially with such a very short notice. I must appreciate you for joining us tonight. We also have joining us via Zoom tonight as well is a PhD candidate in politics and international relations. He hails as well from the Niger Delta, just as Inibege Effiong. Then, of course, he's having his PhD, studying his PhD in the University of Auckland, New Zealand. He joins us as well via Zoom. Wisdom Iyekepolo. Wisdom, thank you for joining us tonight. Gentlemen, I'd like to appreciate you so much for coming through for us. I think let's begin this conversation first of all with Inibege Effiong, rather. Ini, you were at the PIB hearing of the bill, where we do understand that host communities had to even exchange blows. You were there. You made a presentation. Why is that so?
Having me. Good evening. Let me correct the misconception or misrepresentation of the event that took place during the public hearing at the House of Representatives. I was present at that public hearing for the 2 days. That is on Wednesday and on Thursday. I witnessed live the fracas that took place just a seat or two after where I sat. The fight that we witnessed did not represent some form of disagreement in respect of the position taken by stakeholders or host communities in the Niger Delta. On the contrary, my perception is that this was just an organization, a group that may have had some form of leadership crisis. So when someone stepped out to make a presentation, it appeared that a different faction wanted someone from their own faction to be the one to speak on behalf of that group, which is just a group out of the various entities and organizations and individuals who had submitted memorandum to the ad hoc committee. And let me also state that that fight had nothing to do with what the host communities want from the PIB. As I said, I witnessed this live. There was no time, at no time during that fracas did I witness any argument or debate as to what position to present.
Program exclusively. Tell us exactly what the host communities from the Niger Delta are demanding from the federal government, especially as regards the petroleum and industry bill.
I attended that public hearing as a representative or one of the representatives of the Niger Delta Dialogue. The Niger Delta Dialogue is a think tank of the Pan-Niger Delta Elders Forum, PANDEF. Even though the views articulated were those of NDD and not that of the PANDEF. Our position is clear as contained in our memorandum, and I'll just highlight some of them. When you look at Chapter 3 of the proposed bill, the Draft Petroleum Industry Bill 2020, there are provisions and clauses in that bill which are clearly antithetical to the interests of the people of the region. Let me give you the basics. First and foremost, the PIB seeks to establish what is known as the Host Community Trust Fund, which has been pegged at a grossly inadequate 2.5% of operational expenditure, not even net revenue, not revenue, just operational costs. And we feel that this is wrong, that this is too small. This does not really address the grievances of the host communities. So we are saying that why can't host communities be made equity shareholders in the oil operations that take place in their region, either in the NNPC or the successive company entity that will succeed it, and also in the IOCs. So the Niger Delta region, the host communities are saying that a 10% equity shareholding should be considered. But we also have an alternative argument that in the event that that is not granted, that the percentage that should accrue to the host community should not be less than 13%, which is also in conformity with the conditional principle of derivation. Now, other problematic aspects of this bill relates to the host community trust, a trust that is to be incorporated with the Corporate Affairs Commission, which the PIB proposes should take place within 1 year of the coming into force of the PIB, the Petroleum Industry Bill. We feel that a period of 1 year transition is too long, that entity can be incorporated within 3 months. And in any event, the PIB seeks to give what is called the set clause, which is international oil companies, the sole authority to determine who should represent the host communities in this trust, in this body that is to be incorporated. This is totally wrong. The settlers are also given the exclusive power to determine what projects to undertake under what is described in the bill as needs assessment, which looks to us like a former, a continuation of corporate social responsibility. We do not think that is what ought to be. We do not think that settlers, the oil companies, should be the one to solely determine what they want. There is also this obnoxious provision in the bill that says that where there is sabotage, where there are destruction to all installations or facilities, that the host community shall forfeit the 2.5% that is even to accrue to them. And the PIB seeks to vest the power to protect all installations on what is called an advisory committee, which of course will be constituted by some persons who are to come from the host communities and people outside the host communities. We feel that that is totally irresponsible to say that members of the host community or an advisory committee should now assume the functions of law enforcement agencies. So there are so many issues with that bill that we are not comfortable with, and we have highlighted them. Unfortunately, we were not given the opportunity to articulate these issues that are here.
Just a moment, Zini, because I was saying we do have other major players here. I mean, some of the soil, major players in the oil and gas sector as well. We need to also get their thoughts about this. We will come back to you because it does appear that the issue of unity in the Niger Delta region is also another factor hindering the development of that place, apart from other issues such as corruption and all of that. We'll come back and talk about some of these issues with you. But let me speak with my guest here, who is a major player as well in the oil and gas sector. Mr. Dele Tajuddin, the chairman of IPMAN Southwest Zone. You are also a major player in the oil and gas sector. How are you receiving the news of the Petroleum and Industry Bill, which has been in the pipeline for almost 20 years or more than 10 years, as some say?
Yeah, I think the bill has been in the pipeline for the past 16 years. And just in 2007, I think the Senate passed the bill, part of the bill, because it was segmented anyway. It was not done at once. But however, my appeal, because I have to commend the National Assembly, because if you have to go through the whole thing, because the purpose and intent of that bill is to readdress the operations of the industry, which basically They want it to be profitable, to be efficient, because if you recall, in most cases, NNPC declare losses and the rest. So I think people should join hands with the National Assembly to ensure that this bill is being passed as soon as possible for the benefit of the country. Whatever it is, fighting ourselves and the rest will not solve the problem. So my opinion and my appeal.
You do not have issues at all with the bill? You think it's something commendable?
Oh yes, the bill is going to solve the problem of the industry. It's going to address the problem if it is properly and honestly done. Because the bill, if you go through the bill, is going to address a lot of things. Like I said, basically, operating at a loss is not a good business. Inefficiency does not help any business. And those are some of the major purpose and intent of the bill.
Right.
So once it is passed into law, that's it.
Okay. We will come back to you again and as we zero in on the oil and gas sector as regards your particular area and some of the issues on ground, the roles that IPMAN plays and some of the recommendations and challenges you might be going through. We also understand that joining us via Zoom as well, Wisdom Yekepolo also joins us live via Zoom from Auckland, New Zealand, a PhD candidate, politics and international relations. Wisdom, thank you so much for coming through on the program tonight. Again, I do appreciate you, especially in New Zealand, because it's early hours of the morning in New Zealand. But as a son of the soil, how are you receiving some of the events that played out the past week, where we saw videos of host communities exchanging blows at the presentation of the PNIB?
Thank you, Kelly, for having me. It's unfortunate that the host community or an organization, the hostcom, would be exchanging blows on national TV, where we, in the public, where the public hearing about a PIB that has been in the pipeline for almost 20 years is being discussed. This is a total distraction from what is to be addressed. Now, a lot of issues have been raised about this PIB. It's important, just like the government wants it to be passed in April. Yes, it's important that it is passed. But of what use is it if the host communities, who are key stakeholders in this industry, their hopes and what they are agitating about, it's not totally addressed. Now you hear about 2.5% revenue. You hear about, in fact, let's start from what has the PIB properly defined what a host community is. That is going to be an issue later on, because it's not just host community. Who is host community? Who is going to be host community? How is the management and governance of this trust fund going to be carried out? These are important things. The government is taking care of its side. The companies are taking care of their side. The host communities should be allowed to take care of its side. Now, you talked about unity. We must understand the Niger Delta. The Niger Delta is not just a one-man show. You must understand the geography of the Niger Delta. Different stakeholders have to come, have to make their presentations, and this must be harmonized. So you don't just call on one person and expect that that person will represent the voices of the Niger Delta and tell the others to just submit memorandum and one person speak on their behalf. That is going to result in conflict, because it's not just one entity, especially when the person that you want to speak is not a very known entity that has been in this struggle right from the onset. It is definitely going to cause problems. So again, there are other things that are lacking. The earlier speaker talked about these.
We'll come back and speak with you about other issues. Mr. Daly, let's come back to you now as we stay with that sector, the oil and gas sector. You are a major player in this sector. But again, it does appear that Nigerians always believe and think that groups such as yours are responsible for the reason why there's so much, there's let's say a hike in fuel prices and all of that, because they think and they believe that the independent marketers, petroleum marketers, are the ones responsible, for ensuring that Nigerians even get to pay more for this particular product.
Well, I think that should be a wrong perception about Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. As a matter of fact, the Nigerians should commend independent marketer. And let me take you back to memory lane. In those days, before indigenization decree, when it was wholly the Mobi, Total, AP, and the rest, there was no filling station in the rural areas. But it was the indigenization decree that brought in independent marketer, where our leaders came together, formed this association. And when the association came on board, they identified that in some rural areas they have to come to the town before they could get products. And that was how independent marketers started from the rural areas, come to the urban center. So the kind of services we provide for the masses, it cannot be overemphasized. And I must tell you that, secondly, the kind of job independent marketers provide for the country, I can tell you without independent marketers, there would have been a social menace that would not help this country, because for an average filling station, the minimum you can see is about 6, because you have got to have the admin, you've got to have the manager, the supervisor, the pump attendants, and in some cases you have about 20, 30. So we provide all these. So coming to the issue of hiking price, you see,
because we're just a bit concerned as to why Nigerians will have to keep paying so much for a liter of fuel. At the moment, I think it stands almost between 162, 170 some places.
No. There should not be the benchmark is 162.
But why should Nigerians pay that much for fuel?
Let me tell you about independent marketer. We don't determine price. It's being determined by government. And there's an agency called PPPRA. It's just only these days they're trying to hide under whatever, because they don't want to, pronounce the prices. But they are the people that determine, that draw the template of all the stakeholders, what goes to who. And at the end of the day, they come out with a particular price. Let me give you, for example, if you go to Ibadan today, all the independent marketers are selling at 160, whereas government put it at 162. Quote me and find out. And in my station, I sell 159. So we are not responsible for the hiking price. Independent marketer doesn't hold, because once you have a filling station, you can't use it for another thing. And if you mismanage your filling station, nobody is going to come and buy from you. So people should have, people are having a wrong perception about independent marketers, whereas that is not the truth. So we provide services, we do our business, we contribute to the GDP, to government revenue, and so on and so forth.
We will come back and speak with you about some of the challenges in the oil and gas sector as regards your angle. Now, let's come back to Ini now. Ini, are you there? All right, Ini, thank you for staying with us in your bunk. Well, since you were at the two-day hearing, I'm wondering, how optimistic are you about this particular bill Is this going to be an end? Is this going to put to an end, rather, some of the challenges from the Niger Delta region? I mean, we know about communities. Incidentally, I'm actually from the Niger Delta region as well. You are from Akwa Ibom, I do understand. Wisdom, I think, is from Delta. Do you think the PNIB is going to put an end to some of the challenges in that particular region?
Definitely not. Definitely not. The main challenge facing the Niger Delta region today is corruption. The leaders of the region have been very responsible in the management of the resources that have accrued to the region for, several decades. You can look at from 1999. There is hardly any state in the region today that is self-reliant. From Rivers to Delta to Akwa Ibom, all the Niger Delta states have been poorly and terribly governed. Whether you look at NDDC as an intervention agency, we all witnessed on national television the scandal that took place during the investigation into the NDDC. The Ministry of Niger Delta itself is also not living up to expectations. So I do not think the PIB is a magic wand that will resolve all the crises and issues in the region. Until governors and other elected and appointed office holders in the region are held accountable, are prosecuted, we will not have a Niger Delta that serves the interests of the people of the region. Look at Delta State, for example. You have former Governor James Ibori, who stole public funds, was acquitted in Nigeria, but convicted in Nigeria. He came back and was publicly celebrated. Look at Akwa Ibom, the recent report by the Accountant General of Akwa Ibom State on the 2019 financial report of the state, where the state governor is said to have spent over 5 billion to maintain his private aircraft, the state private aircraft. The letter said, oh, it was 2-point-something billion in the second report that they released. So what I'm saying is that you have this culture of profligacy. You have this reign of impunity in the Niger Delta, where politicians are not accountable. Even the 13% derivation that is coming is not reflected in the life of the people of the region. There is mass poverty in the Niger Delta. Look at the host communities. In Akwa Ibom, for example, go to a community called Mbo or Kobo, the oil-bearing communities. They barely have accessible roads. They don't have healthcare. They don't have good schools. Nothing to show for the resources that are accrued to the region. So I am submitting to you that except the question of corruption is addressed. So I am not one of those Niger Deltans who blame the North, who blame other parts of the country for the afflictions of the region. I believe primarily that the major enemies of the region are the political leaders in the Niger Delta. But having said that, we will not exculpate the Nigerian state from the criminal neglect and long years of exploitation of the resources of the region. I believe strongly that what is due to the region and the host communities should be given to them as a matter of right. However, we must also say that fighting corruption is the exclusive reserve of the federal government, EFCC and ICPC.
Just a moment, in 60 seconds or less, if you can comment on this, because when you mentioned corruption in the region, this administration came on the leadership, or one of the mantras is corruption. How do you think that the corruption fight or the anti-corruption fight of this particular administration is going to, or has affected, or is affecting the region? Because one would think that with the corruption fight or body language from the presidency or this administration, things should have been better. In 60 seconds or less, please.
I do not think there is any fight against corruption today in this country. What we are seeing is a pretentious, a hypocritical, fight against corruption. A selective fight against. There is no genuine fight against corruption. And we have seen that from the report just released about where Nigeria is standing in terms of transparency. So my position is that nobody is really fighting corruption. Buhari is just playing games with the people of this country.
I guess that's a good place to anchor our conversation with you tonight. We do hope that we can probably even have further discussions with you as events unfold with the petroleum and industry bill. But I would like to thank you most kindly for agreeing to speak with Galaxy Television.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so there you go. Inibege Effiong, he's a lawyer and activist as well. He's also been tagged as the enemy to oppressors in Nigeria. Inibege Effiong, live for us here in Lagos via Zoom. If we can't connect with him again, we'll go back to him. But Mr. Deli, let's come back to you now. Allegations of corruption in the oil and gas sector. Moving forward, how do we begin to put an end to this, to the menace of corruption, as well as some of the challenges that you experience, your group? What are some of the challenges that you experience in the course of doing business?
Well, generally, you agree with me that corruption in this country is everywhere, no matter how little it is. What do I mean? If you go to ministries, even for you as a security man to allow you to go in, it demands something. If you don't, it is as bad in this country. But unless otherwise, we change our attitude. It has to come from our innermost part that we want to do this thing. Unless otherwise, if you put 1,000 Buhari there, they won't be able to solve the problem. It is way. Like the man from Niger Delta is saying, what happens to the money given to Niger Delta, the derivation, everything? It has to come from the people mind that this thing has to stop. Well, because otherwise, as Buhari, as a human being, there is a level at which it can go. And even when people are to be prosecuted, the judiciary, even the lawyers, that we see white and call it black. So we are in a mess when it comes to corruption. Right, so unless it comes from our innermost that we want to change. If there is no change from our mind.
What are the recommendations from the Independent Petroleum Marketers? What are the recommendations you think would need to probably adopt or adhere to?
Well, I will limit my discussion to our industry because Nigeria as a country, has been engulfed by ethnicity, religion, and so on and so forth. So that by the time an Igbo man is speaking, Hausa man is saying you are talking nonsense, Yoruba man is saying no, it's not going with you. So I think all of us, if you want to live as a people in a country, the issue of religion, ethnicity, and something will be there. So we should support people who are really saying the truth. But for corruption in our own industry, once this bill, because we have witnessed a situation whereby people take government money in the name of bringing in product into the country, and which is not really, so many corruptions are going on. But I believe with this industry and the regulation of the industry, once it is regulated, it becomes a normal business for everybody. And I think government agencies that take advantage of the opportunities of doing what is not, making the countries, our common part money will be out of it. So I want to plead with the Niger Delta people. I know they must fight for their rights because they suffered a lot for this. But however, we should work together. We should, so that the National Assembly won't have any excuse to further delay the passage of the bill. But however, I'm not saying they should not fight for that. They should fight for their right, because once it is passed, without getting what is due to them, because honestly, if you go to Niger Delta, they suffer a lot. They suffer a lot. You can count so many ways they are suffering. So they should be considered before any other person. I agree with that with them.
All right, Wisdom, thank you for standing by. Wisdom from Auckland, New Zealand. Maybe in 60 seconds, what are your final or concluding thoughts on this particular topic as we look at the ways forward in terms of the petroleum and industry bill, as well as the oil and gas sector moving forward?
Thank you, Ali. The community, the host community, must be taken into consideration. 6 decades of environmental degradation, suffering, unemployment, bad roads, bad infrastructure. Everything has gone wrong in the Niger Delta. And now it's time to introduce the PIB, and the host communities are not properly taken care of. Until they are taken care of, there'll hardly be peace in the region.
Well, Wisdom, thank you so much. Stand by, because we'll come back to the second topic very, very shortly. But as we begin to round off now on this, Mr. Dele Tajuddin, Chairman of IPMAN Southwest Zone, what are your final words as regards your group and the oil and gas sector? Are there things that you think that Nigerians need to get right as regards your association?
Well, like I said, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria is a responsible association. We have all kinds of professions. We have medical doctors, we have lawyers, we have name it, engineers in the industry. It's a business industry. So we are responsible people, and we continue to abide by the rules and regulations of government. But I want to send this message to the people of this country that as an indigenous marketer, governments will give us the support, the necessary support. They should help during this time of COVID, nothing was done for the independent marketers.
Well, maybe the government thinks that there's so much money in that sector and there's no need for the government.
And they should give us a plain level ground in the industry. If I must tell you, the major marketers, I mean, when you talk about Mobi, Total, and the rest, you can't believe it that they give them product on credit of, I think it's about of 60 days.
And those are international, they're mostly international companies.
Yes, they are international companies. They were the first people to come in before independent marketers. And even they give them preferences at the depot. So we should be allowed to have a plain level ground, because a situation whereby you give somebody 60 days facilities and others has to pay before the load was one of the problems as well. Then we also have problem with government agencies in terms of obtaining CFO. Even when it takes years to get CFO from some of these states. We have the urban and regional planning. You have all sorts of agencies coming to demand for money from the filling station. So we have a whole lot of people, I mean, a lot of problems, but some of them are being addressed. Honestly, some governors or some states are really attending to us, but they still need to do more.
Maybe in 30 seconds, what's the future of oil in Nigeria? Because there have been reports that we may actually go out of extinction. So what's the future of that sector?
I do not think so, because oil is the backbone of this country. And my own advice is just that we should not be too dependent on it. Nigeria should move away from only oil, which is part of what this present government is saying. We should go into agriculture, we should go into other...
Diversify and all of that. All right, Chairman IPMAN Southwest Zone, would like to thank you so much. He's also the founder and CEO TJ Petroleum Company, Lamidi Dele Tajuddin. Would like to thank you, for coming through tonight. We'll stay in touch with you so that when events unfold in the oil and gas sector, we'll definitely like to have your views on the program. Thank you so much for speaking with Galaxy TV.
You're welcome, sir.